20 kids, 8 candles. My mother-in-law leaned into my son's ear and said, "Maybe wish for your real mommy. You know you're adopted, right?" The whole yard went silent. Oliver looked at me. His chin was shaking. "Mom, is it true?" I knelt down, held his face, and said the only thing I could. "Yes, but I am your mom. I've always been your mom." He pulled away. He ran inside. The screen door slammed. And Diane just stood there, smiling, like she'd done him a favor. I need to go back, way back. My name is Sarah. I'm 36. I work as a dental hygienist at a small clinic downtown. Greg and I got married when I was 25. We tried to have kids right away. It didn't work. 3 years of trying, 2 rounds of treatments, 1 miscarriage at 11 weeks. After the miscarriage, I sat on the bathroom floor for an hour. Greg sat next to me. He didn't say anything. He just held my hand. The tile was cold. Neither of us moved. We started the adoption process the following spring. It took 14 months, mountains of paperwork, home visits, background checks, interviews. A social worker named Ruth who came to our house 6 times. She checked the smoke detectors, she opened our fridge, she asked us why we wanted to be parents. "Because we have love to give," Greg said. Ruth smiled at that. She wrote something down in her folder and nodded. Then we got the call. A baby boy, 3 days old, born in a hospital 40 minutes from our house. Greg cried in the car. I held the baby so tight the nurse told me to loosen up. We named him Oliver. He was ours. But Diane never fully accepted it. She never said it outright. She said it sideways. "He doesn't have the family chin. I wonder where he gets that temper." "It's not the same, Sarah. You know it's not the same." Greg would shake his head. "Mom, stop." "I'm just saying." "Well, don't." But he never drew a hard line. He never sat her down and said, "This ends now." He loved his mother. He didn't want to fight. I understood that. For years, I swallowed it. Every holiday, every family dinner, every time she looked at Oliver like he was a guest in her house instead of her grandson. Looking back, I see how the small things piled up so slowly, I almost didn't notice the weight. The week after the party was terrible. Oliver wouldn't look at me. He ate breakfast in silence. He went to school without saying goodbye. When he came home, he went straight to his room. He stopped leaving his door open at night. That one hit me hard. He'd always left it open. Always. On Tuesday, his teacher called. "Mrs. Whitmore, Oliver got into a fight today." "A fight?" "He pushed another boy, Tommy Reeves. Tommy said something about the party, about Oliver being adopted, called him a name." "What name?" She hesitated. "He called him a fake kid." I pressed my hand to my forehead. My stomach dropped. "Is Oliver okay?" "He's fine physically, but he's been very withdrawn. I thought you should know." I picked him up from school that afternoon. He climbed into the back seat. He used to always sit in the front. Not anymore. "Oliver?" "Nothing." "I love you." "Okay." That one word almost broke me. At work, I couldn't focus. I was cleaning a patient's teeth and my hands were shaking. Nadia noticed during lunch break. "Sarah, you need to stop. Talk to me." "I'm fine." You haven't eaten in 2 days. You're not fine. Sit down. We sat in the break room. I told her everything. About the party, about Diane's smile, about Oliver pulling away from me, about the fight at school, about Tommy calling him a fake kid. Nadia shook her head slowly. What did Greg do? He talked to his mom. And? She said she didn't mean any harm. She said Oliver deserved to know the truth. Nadia put her coffee down hard. That's not her truth to tell. I know. What did Greg say to that? I paused. He said she has a point, that we should have told Oliver sooner. Are you serious right now? He said maybe it's better it's out now. Nadia stared at me. Sarah, that woman humiliated your son in front of his entire class. Greg needs to wake up. I knew she was right, but saying it to Greg was different. Every time I brought up Diane, he shut down. His jaw tightened. His voice went flat, like I was attacking him personally, like choosing his son meant betraying his mother. I used to think silence between two people meant peace. I've learned it can be the loudest kind of damage. On Thursday night, I tried again. Oliver was in bed. Greg and I were in the kitchen. He was washing dishes. I was leaning against the counter. The faucet dripped between us. We need to talk about your mother, Greg. Sarah. Don't Sarah me. Our son won't speak to me. He got into a fight at school. A kid called him a fake. He's processing. Kids are tough. They bounce back. He's 8 years old. He's not processing. He's drowning. And you're standing on the shore watching. Greg turned off the water. He dried his hands slowly, carefully, like he was buying time. What do you want me to do? I want you to tell your mother that what she did was wrong, not inconvenient, not badly timed. Wrong. I already talked to her. You told her to be more careful next time. That's not the same thing, and you know it. He leaned on the sink. She's my mother. And Oliver is your son. He didn't answer. He folded the towel 3 times and set it on the counter. Then he walked out of the kitchen. I heard the bedroom door close. I stood there alone for a while. Then I went to Oliver's room. The light was off, but he was awake. I could tell by his breathing. I sat on the edge of his bed. Oliver, can I tell you a story? Silence. When you were 3 days old, Dad and I drove to a hospital to meet you. Dad was so nervous he missed the exit twice. I had to grab the wheel once because he almost drifted into the next lane. We walked into a room and a nurse was holding you. You were so small. You had this tiny blue hat on. I picked you up and you grabbed my finger. You held on so tight. I heard him shift under the covers. We chose you, Oliver. Out of the whole world, we chose you. Then why didn't you tell me? His voice was muffled, small. Because we wanted to tell you the right way, when you were ready, when we could explain it properly. Not like that, not in front of everyone. Tommy said my real mom didn't want me. My throat closed. I had to wait a moment before I could speak. That's not true. Your birth mother loved you very much. She wanted you to have the best life possible. She made the hardest choice a person can make, and she chose us to be your family. He rolled over. I could see his face in the hallway light. His cheeks were wet. Am I still yours? Forever, I said. No matter what anyone says. Forever and ever. He reached for my hand. I held it until he fell asleep. I didn't move for an hour. My back ached. My legs went numb. I didn't care. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most aren't strangers. They're the ones sitting at your dinner table, passing the salt.
On Saturday morning, I drove to Diane's house alone. Greg didn't know. I didn't tell him. This was between me and her. She opened the door, flour on her hands, apron on. She was baking, like it was any normal Saturday, like nothing had happened. "Sarah, what a surprise." "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon rolls. I sat at her table. She didn't offer me coffee. She didn't offer me anything. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "I know why you're here," she said. "Good. I stand by what I did." "I know you do. That's what scares me." She frowned. "The boy deserved the truth. His name is Oliver, and we were going to tell him, on our terms, in our home, without an audience of 8-year-olds. You were taking too long. That wasn't your decision to make, Diane. It was never your decision." She looked out the window. "When Greg was little, I never kept secrets from him. I told him everything. About his father leaving, about the money problems, about the letters his father sent that stopped coming. Everything. This isn't the same thing. It's exactly the same. Secrets rot, Sarah." I leaned forward. "You didn't do this for Oliver. You did this for yourself, because you've never accepted him. Because every time you look at him, you see someone who doesn't belong to you." Her face changed. Something flickered behind her eyes. Just for a second. A crack in the armor. "That's not fair," she said quietly. "He cried himself to sleep 3 nights in a row. He got into a fight at school. A boy called him a fake kid. He asked me if he was still mine. Is that fair, Diane? Is any of that fair?"
She didn't answer. She turned to the oven, pulled out a tray of cookies. Her hands were shaking. She set the tray down too hard. One cookie cracked in half. She stared at it. Sometimes the people who do the most harm truly believe they're helping. That might be the hardest thing to fight against. "I'm not cutting you out," I said. "You're Greg's mother. You're Oliver's grandmother. But if anything like this happens again, I will. I'll protect my son over your feelings, over Greg's comfort, over everything else in my life." She stood there with her back to me, silent for a long time. The kitchen clock ticked. "He has your stubbornness," she said quietly. I blinked. That was the first time she'd ever connected Oliver to me, to us, in 8 years. "Yeah," I said. "He does." The next 2 weeks were slow, like walking through deep water with weights on your ankles. Greg and I fought twice more. Once about boundaries with Diane. I told him I went to her house. He was furious. "You went behind my back?" "Somebody had to say something real to her. That's not your place." "Not my place? She's my mother-in-law. He's my son. It's exactly my place." The second fight was about the electric bill. Who forgot to pay it? But it wasn't really about the bill. It was never about the bill. It was about the fact that he'd let his mother get close enough to blow a hole through our family, and then told me I was overreacting. At work, Dr. Patel pulled me aside on a Friday. "Sarah, you've seemed off lately. Everything all right?" "Family stuff." He nodded. "Take a half day if you need it. We can manage." "Thanks. I might." Nadia covered my last 2 patients that afternoon. She didn't even ask. She just looked at the schedule and said, "Go home, Sarah. I got this." That's the kind of friend she was. The kind you don't deserve but somehow get anyway. One night, after another quiet dinner where Oliver ate fast and disappeared to his room, Greg sat next to me on the couch. He turned off the TV. That's when I knew something was different. "I called Mom today." I waited. I told her what she did was wrong. Not badly timed, not clumsy. Wrong. I looked at him. "You did?" I told her Oliver is my son. Fully. Completely. And nobody gets to make him feel like he's less than that. Not even her. Especially not her.
What did she say? She cried. And? She said she was sorry. She said she didn't realize how much it hurt him. She said she thought she was helping. Do you believe her? He rubbed his face with both hands. I think she's starting to understand. I didn't hug him. Not yet. But I put my hand on his knee. He put his hand over mine. We sat like that for a long time. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely. But it was a crack in the wall. And sometimes that's how the light gets back in. I've come to understand that trust doesn't shatter all at once. It gets chipped away, piece by piece, until one day you look down and there's nothing solid left to stand on. A month later, things were different. Not perfect, different. Oliver started talking again. Not like before. He asked questions now. Hard questions I wasn't always ready for. What does my birth mom look like? Do I have brothers or sisters? Can I meet her someday? Did she hold me before she gave me away? I answered every one, honestly, even when it stung. Even when I had to say, I don't know, and watch his face fall. Ruth, our social worker, had given us a small photo album from the adoption agency years ago. A few pictures. A handwritten letter from his birth mother. I'd kept it in our closet, in a shoebox on the top shelf, waiting for the right time. I gave it to Oliver on a Sunday morning. He sat on the living room floor and looked at every page slowly. He touched the edges of the photos carefully, like they were made of glass. She looks nice, he said. She is nice. She has my nose, I smiled. She does. He opened the letter. He couldn't read all the words yet. I read it to him. She wrote about how much she loved him, how she hoped his parents would give him everything she couldn't, how she thought about him every single day. He closed the album, looked up at me. His eyes were dry this time. I'm glad you picked me, Mom. I couldn't speak. I just nodded and held him tight. Nadia called that afternoon. How's everything? Better. Actually better this time. And Greg? He's trying, really trying. Good. About time that man stepped up. I laughed. First real laugh in weeks. Diane came to the house in April. First time since the party. She stood on the porch holding a box. She looked smaller than I remembered. She brought Oliver a model airplane kit. Not a baby toy, a real 60-piece kit for an 8-year-old. She'd picked it out herself. She sat at the kitchen table with him for 2 hours. They built it together. She let him read the instructions. She handed him the pieces. She didn't correct him once. Not once. When he put a wing on backwards, she waited. He figured it out himself. She just sat there, patient. I watched from the doorway. Greg stood beside me. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. At one point, Oliver looked up. Grandma? Yes? I'm still me, right? Even though I'm adopted? Diane put down the tiny wing piece. She looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were wet. Her chin did that same tremble Oliver's did. You're still you, she said. You've always been you. And I'm sorry I ever made you feel different. Oliver nodded, went back to the airplane. Like that was enough. Because for an 8-year-old, sometimes it is. It wasn't a movie ending. Diane didn't become a different person overnight. She still overstepped sometimes. She still said careless things at Thanksgiving. But something had cracked open in her that day at the kitchen table. Some wall she'd built between herself and this boy who shared no blood with her, but who was, without question, her grandson. Summer came. Oliver played baseball. He made new friends. He stopped closing his bedroom door at night. The party faded. Not from memory, just from the center of everything. One warm evening in July, I sat on the porch. Greg was inside helping Oliver with a puzzle. The sprinklers were going. The street was quiet. Fireflies blinked near the hedge. I thought about that hospital room, 3 days old, tiny blue hat, my finger in his grip. I thought about Diane at that birthday table, the silence after. I thought about Oliver's face when he asked if he was still mine. He was. He always would be. Not because of paper, not because of law, because of every lunch I packed, every fever I sat through, every nightmare I chased away. Every morning I said, I love you, and every morning he said it back. That's what makes someone yours. The front door opened. Oliver stepped out. Popsicle stains on his shirt, grass stains on his knees, airplane glue on his thumb. Mom? Yeah? Can we get a dog? I laughed. Ask your dad. He said ask you. Of course he did. Oliver grinned, that big, wide, 8-year-old grin that could fix anything broken in this world. I pulled him onto my lap even though he was getting too big for it. He let me. Just this once. Some things don't need to be perfect to be whole. They just need to be held together by the people who refuse to let go. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Your support means the world and helps bring more stories like this one. See you in the next one.